It's The List and your boy with Jimmy Van and Sean Ross Sapp.
With Jimmy and Sean, sell pills for your dong. Make a fantastic song. Make a fantastic song.
And we're live.
What's up, you guys? Sean Ross Sapp. Let's listen to your boy 194. I'm here for a victory lap, Jimmy.
Oh, yeah? Is that right?
I sat here on this very show 1 week ago, and I said, Jimmy, Mike Tyson is going to go into that fight high. He is going to smoke weed. And you yelled at me.
Yeah.
You screamed at me.
I was
you did all
belittling.
these things.
I was belittling.
You belittled
I
me?
was a bit of a dick with the mocking
In fact,
tone.
You said, what kind of idiot would
Right.
smoke weed while they're doing their job?
Oh, great. God, you're going to start telling secrets. That's awesome. Well, you know what? We'll get to that in a minute because out of respect, I think we got to start with something else.
Yeah.
So we'll get.
By the way, guys, as we get into this, you'll share your memories, all that stuff. Leave a thumbs up, subscribe, tap the bell for notifications. Donate a super chat if you're watching live on youtube.com/Fightful. And we'll read your question or statement on the air because we got plenty to talk about today.
Yeah, when it comes to WWE and Vince McMahon, this might be the most significant loss to date. Pat Patterson, we're doing this on December 2nd. It was announced this morning that Pat Patterson has passed away at the age of 79. He was about a month away from his 80th birthday. His 80th birthday was on January 19th. I saw this word today in a lot of news stories, and I think it's very accurate. You know, Pat Patterson was a trailblazer in a lot of ways. You know, here was this French-Canadian guy. He left Canada, not speaking a lick of English, became a major single star on the West Coast in the U.S. in San Francisco, formed a really successful tag team with Ray Stevens. WWE, Vince McMahon Sr. thought so highly of him that he made him the first Intercontinental Champion. Remember they said that they did a tournament and wherever the hell, but that was all bullshit. But he was the first ever Intercontinental Champion because Vince Sr. respected him so much. And then when he transitioned to behind the scenes, Vince McMahon Jr.'s right-hand man forever, very involved in booking, very involved in match finishes. Everybody knows he created the Royal Rumble. Just a massive, influential person. Talk about his other things he did in the ring. I mean, he had the program of Sergeant Slaughter in WWE, which is pretty famous. They had the alley fight in Madison Square Garden, very famous. Then the Attitude Era allowed Pat Patterson to return as a character, as one of the Stooges, and he actually beat Crash Holly for the hardcore title.
Which is my first exposure to Pat Patterson.
Seriously?
Yes, because I grew up, I became a wrestling fan in 1990.
Right.
So between there and 98, 99, he wasn't wrestling. He wasn't really doing anything like that. He was working backstage largely. Maybe I'd see him on screen here and there. But,
yeah, I mean, he refereed WrestleMania 1. He refereed the main event.
So, I mean, back then, you got to realize WWE Network wasn't prevalent. If you didn't have that VHS,
right,
then you didn't really see it because they didn't play it a whole lot
That's true.
on screen. And he didn't have any matches between September 87 and 98. He had no matches until they started to do the stuff with the Stooges, where he would wrestle Austin, Kane, Chyna, Shane McMahon, stuff like that.
Right.
So that was my first exposure to him as one of the Stooges. So that's how I knew him, and that's what I knew of him. And like you mentioned, an interesting situation is that Pat Patterson competed for the hardcore title in the 2000s, the tag team titles in the 90s because they technically faced the New Age Outlaws. So for I think it was decade after decade after decade, he competed for WWE titles. 4 or 5 straight decades he was able to do that, which isn't something that happens a lot. So my memories of him straight on were from that. Of course, I came to know him as Vince McMahon's right-hand man and the guy who helped create the Royal Rumble. I mentioned to you off the air, Jimmy. Sorry, got a little frog in my throat there. I am working on a major Royal Rumble feature to drop the week of the show. I've been talking to probably a dozen different wrestlers about the Royal Rumble. And I think all but maybe one or two reference Pat Patterson.
100%.
All not just creating the concept, but agenting the match and putting it together. He's been influential in, quite frankly, one of the most innovative match types in wrestling history. Took the plain old battle royal and added an element of intrigue to it that has stuck for over 30 years.
Yeah, and if you've seen Wrestling with Shadows, the Bret Hart documentary, and I think everybody has, you saw in that documentary how influential Pat Patterson was, because he was so heavily involved in match finishes for Bret's pay-per-view matches at that time. When Bret was skeptical that they were going to turn Shawn Michaels heel, he went to Pat Patterson. Because Pat was involved with everything and just massively influential. And then on top of all of that, he was also a trailblazer because he was really the first known openly gay pro wrestler for years and years. And I'm talking long before he came out publicly on Legends House. For years and years, it was common knowledge that Pat Patterson was gay and that he had a live-in boyfriend named Louis Dundero. And I've read Pat Patterson's book. Everybody knew and loved Louis Dundero. Louis Dundero was a chef, and Pat Patterson in his book talks about he'd always invite the wrestlers over, and Louis would cook a full spread up for them, and everybody knew him and loved him. He passed, I believe, in '98, I think, and they were together until the end. And it was, not only was it commonly accepted, it didn't seem to hurt Pat Patterson at all, especially when he became a backstage employee. He kept on climbing the ranks in WWE. Didn't seem like it was ever an issue for him. And what was very fascinating about that, WWE has long had this stereotype of focusing on the worst of stereotypes. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Especially when it comes to race and things like that. So on television, wrestling had this stereotype for doing the worst of the worst, and yet behind the scenes, one of the first, if not the first, openly gay people is just flourishing and climbing the ranks, and was fully accepted by everybody.
It reminded me a lot of, actually, I rewatched Chappelle's Show a couple weeks ago before they took it off Netflix, and one of the reasons why he said that he quit the show was he felt like he went from making fun of stereotypes to reinforcing stereotypes. And that's something that WWE has been guilty of for a very long time. Like, it seems like they plan on making fun of a stereotype, be like, that's such a ridiculous thing, but then they just reinforce it and they hammer it in. Of course, Pat Patterson did have controversies and plenty of stuff like that caused issues, but
you mean like the Barry O stuff and all of that?
Yes, of course. A lot of controversy there. And the thing is, like, I remember when they did the Legends House thing, and that's when he sort of came out publicly. But I mean, there were references to it on commentary in like '99, like Jim Ross saying, "Fellas, he's single," even though he wasn't. But things
everybody
like that,
knew. Everybody knew.
Yeah, everybody.
When I think I could be wrong, but I think when Jim Ross said that, Louis had passed.
Really?
I think so. Yeah, because I think Louis passed in '98.
You're right.
Yeah. So Jim Ross said that probably as just a tongue-in-cheek thing.
It was the night that Mankind went off the cage. It was the same night.
Oh, was it really? Really? Yeah. Okay. Well, I mean, he, you know what? I mean, loss is always a shitty thing, obviously, and my condolences to his family and his friends. But what a run and what a legacy. Yeah. What a legacy he's leaving behind, and he's going to be in stone there in terms of WWE history. So hell of a run. I mean, to this day, the Rumble is if not my number one favorite show of the year, it's number 2 behind Mania every year consistently. I'm curious how they're going to do it this year in a COVID environment, but I love the Rumble, and that was all Pat Patterson. So
we have a lot of super chats about this, guys. Keep sending them in. We really appreciate it. Ace Podcast. WWE. Well, he was backstage in WWE this year, but he hadn't been in the last few months, from what I understand. As far as being involved with creative, I think it was more like a wink and a nod thing, like, we're going to keep paying you, thank you for your contributions thing. But he was always a guy that people would consider and go to, especially for finishes and all that. Zach Barber says, Pat Patterson singing karaoke at StarCast was something I didn't know I needed to see until I saw it.
Uh-huh.
I'm trying to think of what song that he sang.
My Way.
Was it My Way?
Yes.
Yeah, it was My Way.
Yep, always. That's what he was known for.
Scott Young says, "Hi, Sean. As I'm from the UK and I like sleep, this is one of the few shows that I can help you all out financially with. Love you guys and your work. R.I.P Pat. Well, thank you for that. We appreciate it. Super chats are a big part of helping that out. So a big thank you. Wild Boy says, just found out that one of my close friends, Mark, has passed away today as well. He had diabetes. This is a terrible year. Sending our thoughts to you, my friend. I know it's been a tough one for you, losing your mom and losing so much of your family. So definitely sending our love your way. Jobber says, does Fightful have an award for best company for COVID? Well, how about this? Fightful has had 0 COVID infections. So it's us.
Right. My office is open 3 days a week. We've not had one problem. Not one.
We've got another super chat. D-Lo Diggs says, any thoughts on Jimmy Rave's retirement? Did you see this, Jimmy?
Yeah, I was going to mention that later. We can mention it now for a second if you want. Actually, it was going to be part of the next thing on my list here. Left arm amputated. What happened? I heard it was an infection.
Yeah, and man, like it was a very heartfelt message that he put out there, and it's so sad.
What was it? Was it staph or something?
Well, he said that they found an infection in his left arm, and he tried to toughen it out, but that hurt him because by the time that they got there, it was too late. They had to amputate above the elbow, and it ended his in-ring career.
I wonder if it was staph. That's sad. That's unfortunate. How old was he?
I mean, was he?
Well,
He's still alive.
No, I know, but I mean, like, to retire. He's retiring young, no?
Oh, yeah, he's 37.
37.
Or he'll be 38 this week, I think.
Yeah, that's too bad. So, yeah, big in Ring of Honor, big in TNA, and what best wishes to him. You know, what else can you say about that? The other one I was going to mention is Duane Gill, a.k.a. Gilbert, recently suffered a heart attack. I understand he's at home recovering now. And I saw something online about how the day before his heart attack, he did a cameo for one of our podcasts.
For The Distraction, for Joe and Jeremy. By the way, guys, check that show out this week. Luther appeared on it for an hour. Luther
did he?
went there. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's cool. That's cool.
Luther is a regular watcher of The Distraction.
Good for him.
But Duane Gill did a cameo for them. And, I just hope that he gets well soon. That's really all you can say about that. Duane Gill, best wishes.
Yep, for sure, for sure. Well, before the news of Pat Patterson's passing came out, I had another thumbnail planned out that I was going to put up instead. Obviously, I had to pivot because the Pat Patterson news is a major wrestling story of the year. Put up Media One, Camilo.
Oh, boy.
This is the thumbnail. That's the thumbnail that I was going to put up. And it's so good that I had to try to get it on the podcast. So that's that. The other thing that I was going to do was I was planning to kick off the show this week with a nice little video that Camilo put together for me. So let's run that right now. Run Media 2, Camilo.
Last week on the List in Your Boy.
You know, sometimes, Sean, sometimes you
spend...
spend...
go into that fight high on weed.
I think there's a good chance.
Jimmy, what the hell are you talking about?
Okay, so let me just tell you this, and I'm not going to go into massive detail, but let me just tell you this, okay? And I might have told you this on the air before. I know people in the sports memorabilia world, right? Mike Tyson in that world has a bit of a reputation for being a bit of a loose cannon.
During the fight, Jimmy.
Well,
during his first fight in 16, 17 years, hopped up.
He's gonna be relaxed, Sean Ross Sapp.
Yeah, well, if he's on weed, he's gonna be relaxed.
That's what I'm saying. He's gonna be relaxed.
Hopped up. Oh, come on. He's not gonna smoke weed before the fight.
You could be very surprised. I wish Camilo could pull up clips in real time. I wish he could do it.
Any idea how many fighters I've worked with? I've never once. And let me tell you, I managed some potheads in my day. Not a one time did one of them say, you know what? I need to spark up before the fight. Right before the fight.
Well, first off, I never said right before the fight. I didn't say he's going to walk down the aisle.
You insinuated he was going to be high in the ring.
I think he's going to be calm. Yes, I do.
Oh my God.
This is not a regular fight event. This is not like
no shit, it's not.
That's what I'm saying. You can't compare Mike Tyson to the fighters that you've dealt with. This is not the same thing.
Why? Why would he? He could just wait until, I don't know, after the fight and smoke weed.
So Sean Ross Sapp, tell me right now, from your sort of impression of what's happening, was Jimmy Van right? Is Mike Tyson high on the devil's lettuce?
So I got upset about that. There are a lot of things that Jimmy accuses me of getting upset about, like him saying that 35 was pushing 40, which is not, by the way. Although I will say Otis at 28 years old is pushing 40. That is real. He said Mike Tyson might be hopped up on weed. And I was like, Jimmy. And he was like, well, I've dealt with some people that know. And I'm like, yeah, but he wasn't fighting when you dealt with him. It was just other stuff. Like maybe Mike Tyson's going to spark up about an hour after this. Sure. But he ain't going in there high. It is wild to imply that Mike Tyson, in his first fight in like 17 years, is going to go smoke weed right before the fight. And
it's not. This is not real. Like, this is not like a regular. He's not out there looking to contend for the title. You know what I'm saying?
But even why? Like, why would he do that? Why would a person do that? Even Mike Tyson, who has spent a lot of time training and promoting for this, even though it's not a real thing. Like, maybe at 11 a.m. that day, and then an hour after the fight, he ain't gonna go in there high as a kite. Come on.
We'll see how it plays out, Sean.
Well, listen, I can't stop smoking. I smoked during fights. I used to have to smoke. I'm sorry, I'm a smoker. I smoke every day. I never stop smoking. It's just who I am. It has no effect on me from a negative standpoint. It's just what I do and who I am and how I'm gonna die.
And we're back.
The best video editing that money can buy, Jimmy Van. How in this landscape were you able to find a look-alike and a sound-alike for me?
Yeah. Sean, let me tell you. We've been doing this thing for 4.5 years, Fightful. You and I. We basically have been running Fightful for 4.5 years. It warms my heart that after 4.5 years, I'm still teaching you things. It warms my heart that after 4.5 years, you're still learning lessons from the old guy here. It really, really warms my heart. And I got to tell you, there are lessons in this. I'm not just here for fun. I'm here to educate, Sean. I'm here to educate. And I want people to remember this, because this doesn't just apply to Sean. This applies to everybody. If you are ever in a situation where somebody makes a prediction about anything, not just a sporting event, it could be a wedding, it could be, a spelling bee. If you're ever in a situation where somebody makes a prediction about something, if you don't know definitively for 100% that prediction will not come to fruition, rather than laugh at them, rather than kind of have a mocking, belittling tone...
I was not belittling. I thought it was legitimately ridiculous that anybody would go into that sort of situation and smoke weed.
Exactly my point. So, the lesson is wait until the event, reserve judgment until the event, just in case the prediction comes true. That's the
Also,
lesson.
I have to say that just magnifying that was the fact that you did say hopped up on weed. That was very funny to me. It was like he's sitting next to Denzel Washington in Training Day in the car, and he's like, "Angel dust, PCP." Like he's getting amped up.
Okay, didn't Shaq say devil's lettuce? And by the way, Shaq, I know you're watching this, you bastard. I'm waiting for my apology. My DMs are open for you on Twitter. I'm waiting for that apology, all right? Because you were laughing just like Sean was. I'll be waiting for that. But Sean,
that's the thing. Shaq was much more pompous than I. He's the one that owes you an apology. I was here to create good on-screen content, which is what I do.
Yeah.
And I did that.
Well, you know what, Sean? Let me just say this. So I'm not a journalist. I've never professed to be. You are a journalist. You have a network of contacts that you talk to verify stories, and you've become one of the best at what you do. I'm not a journalist, but I do know people. And you know that I know people. And so the lesson here, Sean, and I mean no disrespect when I say this, because this applies to everybody in life. So I mean no disrespect when I say this. Even though there are a lot of things that you know, there are also a lot of things that you don't know. And that's the lesson. And when I made that prediction last week, I didn't conjure it out of thin air. I said that because of things that I knew that were not necessarily public, and so I thought it was a pretty good bet that I could say that on the podcast. But I really got to ask you, what did you think? What did you think when you heard about that?
Oh, I thought it was hilarious.
Yeah?
I thought it was amazing. I knew it'd be great. Like, I would love to say that I was like seething, but I was like, oh shit, this is going to be good. This is going to be really, really great. But I kind of wished that I was more upset about it. Like, I wish that it arsed me a little bit more, but I was just like, of course, it's 2020. What more ridiculous stuff can continue to happen than this? And I was very happy. I had a good week. We've got a bunch of good wrestling. I got a WWE interview. And quite frankly, I got to cover a Mike Tyson fight. And I know a lot of our younger viewers might not quite understand the magnitude of that. But in the 90s, in the 80s, Mike Tyson Saturday night was something that you planned your week around.
100%.
And I never thought that I would get to cover a Mike Tyson fight. And that it was very cool to me that I got to do that. So I was already happy about that anyway. And honestly, he looked really good.
He looked amazing. I
couldn't believe it. I was like, you know what? Roy Jones Jr., a few years younger, way more active than Mike Tyson.
Yep.
And then the moment I saw that first body shot from Mike Tyson, I was like, well, he's going to win this.
Yeah, Roy's strategy played out the way I thought. People on Twitter asked me, what do you think is going to happen? I thought Roy was going to clinch and move until Mike gassed, and then Roy was going to do just enough to win rounds. That's what I thought was going to happen. And that's basically what he did, except he's the one that gassed. And I noted this on Twitter. I think it was at the end of the fourth round. Mike, I think, could have dropped Roy whenever he wanted, and he chose not to throw headshots. And if you watch that fight back, obviously Mike's right hand is his power hand. He didn't throw any rights to the head at all. Whenever he got the opportunity, he threw him to the body because he knew it was an exhibition fight and he didn't want to hurt anybody. And full respect to him. But I think if Mike wanted to, he's dropping Roy in the first or second round.
I think so too.
Given how that fight played out.
I completely agree based on what I saw. And I'm all for Mike Tyson's Legends League. I know that a lot of people are like, oh, sideshow, oh, this. Hell no. You know what it was? It was interesting. It was exciting. I want to see Mike Tyson face noted Affy Award winner Evander Holyfield. I want to see that.
Yeah.
I want to see him face Bob Sapp, Jimmy. I want to see that. I want to see him knock the legal threats out of Bob Sapp. I want to see some of these things. You know what? Put him in there against that Logan Paul, Jake Paul, whichever Paul is there. Put him in there against him.
Yeah. Well, one of the most memorable dinners of my life was with Evander Holyfield. I got to have dinner with him one night in Philadelphia, and I'm a fan of that era. So I'm a big fan of. No, Evander's the opposite of Mike. He's the opposite of Mike. But Evander and Mike Tyson and Lennox Lewis, like that time period, I'm a massive fan of boxing from that time period. And I hope that someday I can have dinner with Mike too, because Evander was so cool and had so many stories to tell. And I'm telling you, Sean, when we walked into that restaurant, I mean, Evander's a big guy to begin with. When we walked into that restaurant, everybody was staring at him. Everybody. Yeah. And I remember I said to him, you must get this everywhere you go. And he just kind of shrugged because he was so used to it. You can amplify that by 10 with Mike Tyson.
Yeah.
You know? So.
We have some super chats about this. Hannah M says, and he got to do a prediction show with me, a blessed week. Yeah, please check that out, guys. Hannah joined me on the NXT TakeOver War Games prediction show. That is up now on Fightful.com, FightfulWrestling.com, and YouTube.com/Fightful. I thought Hannah was great on that. Evan Wright says, the moment I heard he was high, I knew Jimmy was sitting there in his big leather chair plotting for this moment, and I wasn't let down. Oh, I did too. I knew it, and I was ready for it. But
I got to be honest with you. I was surprised Sunday morning that this was such a major headline. I was surprised.
Because of us, Jimmy.
Oh, sure, it was because of us. But I can't be the only person in the universe that predicted this. This was not a surprise to me at all. How is it that this was headline news everywhere? I was very surprised that it was such big news.
A few reasons. VADA testing, which supposedly took place, and the reasons I mentioned. Like, Mike has overcome a lot of stuff, good and bad, of his own doing and some of it of not. But it is a ridiculous thing. Like, when I say this, I mean that I really have managed a lot of pothead fighters, and not a once did it ever come up you know what, I should spark up before the fight. And I mean some real potheads. I know a lot of wrestlers that were mega potheads. Matt Riddle has told me on numerous occasions, never when I'm in the ring, just in case. Never when I'm going to perform, just in case. Yeah.
I just knew Mike looked at this fight different. I just knew he did. And I mean, they didn't have to get licensed. It wasn't sanctioned. The testing, from what I understand, marijuana or THC was excluded from the testing. So he looked at it as a glorified sparring match and as a great payday. And quite honestly, if it hadn't have been pitched to him like that, if it hadn't been pitched to him like an exhibition fight, a glorified sparring match, he would not have done it.
Yeah.
So
we have a few more super chats. By the way, get those in, guys. Leave us a thumbs up if you're watching live. I can't tell you how much that helps. Chris Greenlee says, can we talk about how Nate Robinson disrespectfully got dropped? I greatly overestimated the element of his athletic ability compared to the even negligible experience of Jake Paul. Like, I really thought that maybe the fact that he had been an elite athlete as recently as a few years ago would help him somewhat against someone who had not trained as much, but it all comes back to training. And Jimmy, we used to do this at my gym. We would ask people, athletes from the area, to come in, and we would have them spar at our open houses with the least experienced person on the fight team. The result was always the same. It was always the same. That's another situation right here. One guy who had been trained, another guy who hadn't, and Nate Robinson was the subject of memes all week.
it was a bad situation. He should never have been in there. I mean, I don't care that he was an elite basketball player. Boxing is completely different.
Yep.
He shouldn't have been in there. And it is what it is. I mean, you know, that Paul kid, I will give him credit. At least he knows where the money is. It's embarrassing to think that Conor McGregor would give him the time of day. But at least he knows where the money is. So I give him credit. But, yeah, Nate Robinson should not have been in there. It was embarrassing.
Justin Lopez says it was over for Nate once he decided to wear Knicks colors, and that's coming from a Knicks fan. Yeah, that's the mark of a loser, the Knicks. And Evan Wright says, just wanted to say I cried laughing at the gun club stuff with Taz last night. Good show again. They really need Austin teaming with Finn Juice someday, which is David Finley and Juice Robinson. I think he'd be a great addition to them if they ever do a partnership. But they really seem to have a lot of fun on AEW Dark, and I appreciate it.
I saw that clip, and you know Taz was loving it. You know he was.
Oh, yeah.
So that was all good. There's another thing I want to talk about. Last week, you and I talked a little bit about Nick Diaz versus Takanori Gomi from Pride 33, which took place in 2007. And if you missed that fight, Diaz won that fight, and it got overturned because he failed a drug test for marijuana usage for THC. Last week on this podcast, I said that the speculation at the time was we're going to get to it. I said the speculation was the marijuana usage might have helped Nick Diaz in the fight and numb the pain. I did not say that the marijuana helped him. I said the speculation at the time was that it might have. Sean disagreed. We have a little clip from that in case you missed it. Put up Media 3, Camilo. Sean, let me tell you something. And this is a lesson for anybody that does a podcast with you, all right? Just because you raise your voice and just because you talk over people doesn't mean you're always right.
Yeah, but
it doesn't mean you're always right.
Saying that Nick Diaz could absorb more punches because he had
No, I never said that. I said speculation was that's what happened.
By dummies, maybe.
I'm just saying that was speculation. That's what it was.
My God. No, that was not speculation.
That
was like conspiracy theories.
Whatever, but even
speculation and conspiracy theories are not the same thing.
And we're back.
So thank you for reinforcing my point. People can speculate anything. I can speculate that you've got explosive diarrhea right now. Camilo can come along and say, well, you know what? I don't smell anything. And I'm going, well, you know what? I don't care. I think that he does. That would be me speculating that you've got explosive diarrhea. And that's what I said. Dummies speculated it back then.
Well, you said it was mostly conspiracy theory.
As dummies.
Well, put up Media 4, Camilo. And again, I'm not saying this is right or wrong. I'm just confirming my point. So this is from MMA Junkie from back in 2007, but they took the report from MMAweekly.com back in the day. And you can see they're highlighted. Dr. Tony Alamo, he was the chairman of the Nevada State Athletic Commission. He was basically the guy that overturned the decision from a win to a no contest. And you see his quote at the bottom there. He said, I was there at this fight and believed that you were intoxicated and that it made you numb to the pain. Did it help you win? I think it did. And so, again, I'm not suggesting it did. My point was that there was speculation it did. And as you could see there, the guy responsible for overturning the decision speculated that there was. So,
and it was dumb. That threshold.
Not saying right or wrong.
That threshold, dumb. He knows better. He knows better. The
That's what he
threshold
said.
now, just so you know, the threshold now, 150 nanograms per milliliter. What was it then? He said 50, maybe 15.
I don't know what it was. All I know is that was speculation at the time.
150. It wasn't 150. That's for damn sure. They have greatly increased the thresholds since then of anything that's even considered in competition to be a violation. Like, not just that. If he said that it was 50 nanograms per milliliter, the WADA, I believe, threshold is 3 times that now, meaning that you could do like 149 nanograms per milliliter and not fail a drug test. And I believe in that graphic. Hey, you want to throw up that graphic? Is it available?
What graphic?
The MMA Junkie graphic?
Yeah. That's media
throw it up.
4.
Throw it up. Mr. Diaz is 175. It creates a unique situation, blah, blah, blah. Oh, a result of 15 back then was considered positive. And a threshold of 50 nanograms per milliliter was something that they had as a positive. I mean, come on.
I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm saying speculation was that it helped him, and I was right.
Dummies. Now, granted, a very accomplished, smart dummy.
Influential. Yes.
I'm pretty sure he knew the drill. I'm pretty sure he knew that was fucked.
I got to tell you, Sean, it is a burden for me to be right this often on this podcast. It's a burden having to always be right.
I haven't filled this pen for a year. Standing next to it, I'm getting more than 50 nanograms per milliliter in my body. Like, it is so negligible.
You're preaching to the choir because I don't care what the levels are. I'm just saying that was speculation.
I didn't say that there was no speculation. I said it was among dummies.
You said conspiracy theories.
And I said among dummies, and it was. I mean, was it proven that it helped him absorb blows? Did he ever come out and say that? Did he ever?
I don't know. That was just speculation.
Is that a study put forth by the Nevada State Athletic Commission? No. But you know what? Had he taken Blue Chew, he would have gotten a really erect penis, and that isn't a conspiracy theory. That isn't from dummies. That's from someone who wants you to get your penis very, very hard. BlueChew.com brings you the first chewable with the same FDA-approved active ingredients as Viagra and Cialis. No matter what the Nevada State Athletic Commission tells you, your thresholds will be enough to get a hard penis. Prescribed online by Blue Chew affiliated physicians that work with you to get you the active ingredient you need, and you don't have to go to the doctor or the pharmacy to get it. It's prescribed online. It's shipped straight to your door. No waiting in line. No, we're going to get an award for this, Jimmy. We're causing less people to be exposed to the outside world because we're getting their erect penises delivered straight to their door.
You're getting their penises delivered to their door?
Yeah, why not?
Wow.
We're dipping our toes into every other business.
That's a
why not
service.
Dip a little something else in as well. My God, guys. It's a chewable, so it's ready whenever you are or whenever you're not. It's about that performance. You want that good performance, and Blue Chew gets you there. There you go, Camille. Put that graphic back up there. Thank you very much. And if you go to Fightful or YouTube, oh, my God, I got my links all messed up. BlueChew.com/Fightful. I think Blue Chew, and then you use the code Fightful. That'd be the one. I think we've got them all, though. You can get that first shipment free. Just pay $5 shipping. I'm all out of sorts. Jimmy, you're questioning my integrity on this show, so I have to let the people know I'm going to get their penises very hard. BlueChew.com. Code Fightful. It is very important that they know this.
And I'm not questioning your integrity. I'm just making it be known that I'm right all the time and you're not. That's basically it. So we're doing this on December 2nd. AEW Dynamite this week has a major main event. John Moxley, Kenny Omega for the AEW title. I think a title change on television is just what the doctor ordered for AEW, but I'm not sure they're going to go in that direction, and I'll give you my reason why. But your thoughts first. Do you think we might see a title change?
I do think we might see a title change, and I think it's time.
I think it's time.
I mean, no disrespect to Eddie Kingston, but when they're going to Eddie Kingston, Lance Archer, Jake Hager for Jon Moxley to compete against, then you need to establish some more top of the level talent, and Kenny Omega is there.
100%, I agree. Now, I saw this question posted on Twitter. Do you think that Dynamite will do over or under 900,000 viewers this week on TNT?
I think they'll do over.
You do? You think they'll do over? So I think they're going to do under. The only reason I think they're going to do under is because they're not running unopposed. That's the only reason. I think that because this is the last episode of NXT before TakeOver War Games, I think that's going to dip into their audience enough to get them under that threshold. But that's just my opinion.
Yeah, I could see it. We got Evan Wright in this chat saying, if I see Kenta tonight, I'm losing my mind. If you see Kenta tonight, that would be monster. That would be...
You mean live?
Yes. I mean, he lives in Florida.
Oh, he does? Really?
Yes. And I mean, that came as a shock to me, too, when he was doing the Strong tapings. And it's like, well, of course. He worked here for years. So why wouldn't he? But, yeah, I think it would be a good moment. It'd be really good. And it's something that they need to do. Omega as champion, it's time. And Moxley's had a good, 9-month reign.
Yeah, I agree that I think it's the perfect time, especially doing it on television. I think it's a good time. The only thing that makes me question if they're going to do it is Kenny Omega still scheduled for Triple Mania? Last I looked, he was.
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah.
So then my only question mark about making him champion is I still don't know the quarantine situation. I still don't know, does he have to go to Mexico early in quarantine? Does he have to quarantine when he gets back to the U.S.? I don't know the rules, and that's the only thing that would make me reluctant to make him your top guy if he won't necessarily be available week after week.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that is something I considered it, but not nearly as much as... Because, I mean, until yesterday, there was the possibility that Moxley was working Wrestle Kingdom. But, hey, you know what? If Kenta shows up tonight and Tony Khan was swerving everybody, then there's that opportunity as well.
Right.
Scott Young says, if Hangman attacked Moxley, I will lose my mind. That would be great, too. Evan Wright says, if you want more ink in your pen, I thank you. And Zach Barber, talking about the Tyson fight, says, Snoop Dogg singing Precious Lord was hilarious.
I like Snoop a lot. I thought Snoop was cool on commentary. I really like him. He's a very likable guy. And Morrow, it was good to see him back,
Yeah.
So, and even Adesanya, aside from the fact that he threw a few F-bombs on the air, which he shouldn't. Otherwise, I thought he was pretty decent too as a color commentator. Not bad.
Yeah, I agree.
What did you think of Tony Khan? You just said this. Tony Khan confirmed Moxley is not going to do Wrestle Kingdom 15. Kind of makes sense because of COVID and everything. Were you surprised at all by that?
Yeah.
You were?
But, yeah, I was. But he's got to drop that title sometime unless they just vacate it. So that's probably why.
Right. Okay. I want to move on. I want to talk about WWE's developmental efforts. Now, when you look at Raw this week, all right, Ricochet got beat again. And not only did he get beat, he got beat by Slapjack, the bum of Retribution. So that happened. Matt Riddle got beat again. Mia Yim, in her in-ring debut as Reckoning, got beat by Dana Brooke, who never wins, and her mask got knocked off after a couple of minutes. Dominic Dijakovic is floating around as T-Bar, doing almost nothing. Shane Thorne is floating around as Slapjack, doing nothing before he beat Ricochet. When you look historically at the list of NXT champions that got called up to the main roster, look at this list. Bo Dallas. Now, Bo Dallas, I don't think the Bo Leaf thing was ever going to work on the main roster. I
think it could have. Briefly.
You think it could have?
Not as a main roster thing, but
yeah.
Actually, I mentioned it on the Q&A show I just filmed. He gets a bunch of banana peel wins over 4 or 5 months and has this big grand WrestleMania entrance. Then he gets beaten 6 seconds. I think that's the maximum of what it could have done. It was not going to be a long-term thing. It couldn't have been. You're right.
I feel like his peak as the Bo Leaf character was when he did the house show at Boston Garden and The Rock came out.
Yeah.
That for me was kind of like his peak. He might be an exception on this list. Finn Balor. Finn Balor was a guy that the company was fully behind when they brought him up. Then after that, they lost interest. He couldn't do the Demon anymore. Then he's putting over Bray Wyatt. Then he wants to go back to NXT. Shinsuke Nakamura, his first week on the main roster, what does Vince McMahon do? He has him cut a live promo in the ring. When you know that English is a second language and then that's a weakness, that's what Vince McMahon has him do. He was dead in the water. Bobby Roode was never going to be WWE champion, but now he's basically an enhancement talent tag wrestler, more or less. Andrade was part of a group this summer where the manager was the hottest member of that group. Aleister Black had a winning streak no one ever talked about on television. And now he's not on TV, maybe because of his wife. Kevin Owens was kind of like Finn Balor, where they brought him up, they pushed him strong. He beat John Cena in his first match on television. But now he's a guy that kind of coasts around the mid-card. When they got to fill the main event spot, they plug him in, he loses, then he coasts around the mid-card again. That's Kevin Owens. Keith Lee, we'll see what happens from here. I find like with his new music now, he's got better presentation. But before that, train wreck push for Keith Lee when they brought him up. Now, when you look at North American champions, Ricochet is an obvious one. When you look at tag team champions, Rowan and Harper, they kind of floated around after they left the Wyatt family. The Ascension, they weren't that great, on the main roster, but they didn't make it. Lucha Dragons came up basically as enhancement talent, holding pinatas. Wesley Blake is being penalized because of what somebody as part of the Forgotten Sons did. Vaudevillians are gone. Revival's gone. American Alpha, Chad Gable became Shorty G. We'll see if he's able to find that spark again. Authors of Pain were released. Sanity was released except for Killian Dane. Viking Raiders, sometimes they were a comedy act. Sometimes they took them seriously. And then the women, Ember Moon wanted to go back to NXT. They didn't know what to do with her. They split the Iconics up for no reason. Shayna Baszler was unstoppable. Now she's playing second fiddle tonight. Jack's getting pinned by Lana. What the hell is going on with these talent that are pushed so strongly in NXT, and as soon as Vince McMahon gets them under his thumb, they go to shit? I shouldn't say go to shit, but what they had on the NXT roster is gone. Like, what is it? What is it?
I mean, since Goldberg beat Kevin Owens for the Universal title, there have been no, real strong NXT alumni that have held that title. It's been Rollins, Lesnar, Fiend, Goldberg, Strowman. Strowman didn't have an NXT run.
Right. Rollins did, but that was ages
And I know
ago.
People will say, "Oh, well, what about Drew? He was a champion." Okay, well, where was he before that? Oh, wait, he was in WWE being told or telling everybody, "I'm the chosen one." Vince McMahon telling him he's the chosen one. Jinder Mahal? No, they brought him down there because they were like, "Here's a familiar name. He's going to compete for the NXT title." AJ Styles was a star in TNA. Daniel Bryan has been a star for a decade. Kofi Kingston was one of those things where it's like, you guys have treated him so bad, we're ready to see it. Orton, Cena, the 2015, 2016 was when it started to really ramp up. When the NXT profile started to ramp up and people were like, man, future, but it's not the future. It hasn't been the future.
No.
And it's so frustrating because it lends an awful lot of credence to all those people that say, oh, well, you don't want him to go up to the main roster because. Okay, well, Andrade Cien Almas was a champion in NXT. What's he doing now? Okay. Drew McIntyre, he made it, but again, he was a star before that. Bobby Roode wasn't exempt from it. Nakamura wasn't exempt from it. Samoa Joe wasn't exempt from it. And they were all stars elsewhere. We mentioned all those other names. Pac is gone. He hit the bricks. The closest we might have is Big E, and he was in NXT before it became the NXT that we know now. I don't blame Tommaso Ciampa for not wanting to go up to the main roster.
Yeah, and that was going to be my next question. If you're a guy that's been with NXT for a while, obviously it's going to get to the point where maybe Triple H or Vince or both say, we got to clear these guys out and make room for the new crop. Let's say if you're Tommaso Ciampa, Johnny Gargano, Adam Cole, why would you want to get called up? You know what I mean? Why would you want to get called up? I think Johnny Gargano, with all due respect to him, given Vince McMahon's MO when it comes to guys of his size, if I'm Gargano, I would never want to get called up to the main roster because he's probably dead in the water if he gets called up.
Yep.
And it's really unfortunate when you see this list of guys. Imagine if I feel like I've said this every week, if they had listened to the audience and if they had played to the strengths of all of those guys, think about how many peak guys they'd have. This could have been Attitude Era 2.0 in terms of the level of talent at the top.
And you have to make these people look strong, or at least book them To me, it's just such elementary booking. AEW's doing it, and they got a lot of people that look strong or look entertaining.
Yep, agreed. I want to ask you, where do you think they're going with Cedric Alexander? Because Raw has almost no tag teams. Xavier Woods even was kind of joking about it. I don't think he expected to be picked up on camera, but he was kind of joking about the lack of tag teams. And now they got Cedric already showing dissension with Shelton Benjamin and MVP. Like, where the hell do you think they're going with that?
Nowhere. Nowhere. They shouldn't go anywhere. Cedric was floundering on his own.
Yeah.
Floundering. And that's unfortunate, but it's a reality. Him and that tag team is really, really great.
Really good.
And I think you push him out of there when it's time. I like the idea that somebody said maybe it's like a Rock Farouk situation, but MVP kind of lays it down. He's like, no, it's not going to happen like that. And I think that would be pretty cool.
That'd be cool. The only problem, I mean, I guess they could do it. You know, so Shelton would be Farouk because MVP can't be Farouk.
Well, I mean, for MVP's the leader.
He's the leader, but he's like not a full-time in-ring guy. I guess we'd have to see where they go. I don't know, though.
Yeah.
Because now that I think about it, that could maybe work where, you know, Shelton, although Lashley's not going to go with Cedric, you know what I mean?
No.
But Shelton could. Like that could potentially make sense. I guess we'll see where that goes.
They'll flounder without him, though, and I hate that.
Yeah.
Evan Wright sends a super chat. Send him in, guys. I feel like I'd rather go be a young lion and get beat by Kojima and other guys nightly and go on excursion than come up through the PC. Am I crazy? Didn't seem crazy to Juice Robinson, and he did that, and he's doing really, really great now. So it depends. And I know for so many people, Jimmy, they grew up in the Attitude Era, and WWE is it. It's like the dream. You're going to find less and less people like that. I'm interviewing people all the time that are like, oh, no, I watched TNA when I was a kid. Like, I like TNA more than WWE.
Right.
So I'm hoping that the next generation sort of evolve past that.
I mean, 10 years from now, 100%. 10 years from now, the crop of talent that's like hitting their prime is going to be talking about New Japan and AEW 10 years from now.
Andrew Monaghan says, it's like Vince views NXT as the WCW he already owned. That's a very good comparison. Have you seen that stupid-ass fake WCW account? I
was actually going to say today, as part of my list, I was going to share some news with you as part of my list. I was going to tell you that I've decided to create a promotion called ECW 2021.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and I'm going to do my first show not until a year from now. I'm going to wait until a year from now, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell everybody that WWE's letting me do it, but I can only own 50%. Otherwise, they're going to let me do it, and I'm going to put up their logos without permission on my social media channels. Amazing. That is you know what's amazing about that, Sean?
What?
There are too many people in this world, and we talked about this last week with people that don't read the article. They just kind of comment based on the headline. There are too many people in this world that, quite frankly, are too stupid, and they believe everything they hear. And there's actually people, I looked at that social media account for that thing we're talking about. People were commenting, asking them questions.
Oh,
like,
I know.
Are you going to bring back the old belt? Are you going to do... It's like, this isn't real. Why are you even asking them this shit?
I had people from WWE, from AEW, like laughing about that. And then I even messaged WWE and they did not get back to me. But I was like, listen, it's embarrassing that I'm even asking you this, but can I please get a statement to debunk this? Because it's stupid. And people are following it. People, like, it's got 3,400 followers since yesterday.
Right. They're following it.
Dummies.
It's unbelievable.
Man.
It's unbelievable.
These are the same people following this that believe that smoking marijuana cushions blows to the head in an MMA fight. That's how I feel. So stupid.
It is.
Come on.
I'm going to tell a quick story and try to make it. I'm going to try to make it as quick as I can. I used to work for a promoter. That's where I met Justin Roberts years ago. I worked for a promoter, and he was notorious for advertising big names. And then either on the day of the show, they would either announce a no-show, or if it was a big name under a mask, they would have an independent guy put the mask on. And they were notorious for doing this. And I remember after I left the company, because I was getting tired of the bullshit because they were doing this so often, when I left the company, they put a major graphic on their website. And this is probably early 2000s. You know what the major graphic was?
What?
Coming soon, Stone Cold Steve Austin versus Bill Goldberg.
No.
And
now see, That's why Kentucky swears they got to have an athletic commission for wrestling. Oh, we don't want somebody advertising Hulk Hogan and they can't deliver. Piss off. You want that $25 for the wrestling license. That's it.
Right.
That's why you have people get licensed before they ever take a bump. It's like giving somebody a driver's license before they get their permit or they ever step behind the wheel. It'd be a money grab. Man, I hate that. And it ruins things for a lot of other people.
Yeah, because so many people believe it, and I should hit Justin up and ask him to retell this story. So there was a show in outside Las Vegas in Nevada, and this is when Mick Foley was hot. Like we're talking 2001 or so, and they advertised Mick Foley in the main event of a show. This company. And I wasn't on that show, but I heard about it after the fact. The day of the show, they got a packed house, Sean.
Yeah.
And the day of the show, they told Justin Roberts, okay, now you got to go in the ring and you got to tell the crowd Mick Foley's not going to be able to appear, no refunds. And he was like, I have to do what? You know what I mean? And this is the shit that this company did on a regular basis. And unfortunately, this shit happens a lot. It happens a lot. I remember there was a company out of the UK that had like a fake Legion of Doom and all this shit. You know what I mean? Happens all the time. And this goofball with this WCW account, don't buy it. WWE's not going to let them do shit. They've got the IP all over the network. You know what I'm saying? They're not going to let them do shit. Don't buy it. It's bullshit for attention. That's what it is.
Mike sends a super chat and says, update on the rumors of Melina and Eva Marie in WWE. Nobody I talked to had any clue back then, and they don't have any clue right now. I have not heard a peep from anybody in WWE about Melina or Eva Marie getting signed. Justin Lopez says, Corbin and Elias, two guys who weren't NXT champions, who have been used and protected better than the names you mentioned, Jimmy. Well, and the sad reality is they haven't been used better, and they haven't been protected. They've just been, okay, they haven't been used well. They've been used better, but not well. They're both 50-50 dorks that are stripped of any creativity, and they're not good.
And Elias basically got himself over because he had that personality and he had the ability to play guitar and he had the ability to sing. He got himself over. You remember that promo with Kevin Owens?
Yes.
Remember how hot those guys were as heels when they did that promo? Yeah. That was Elias's peak, and just like everybody else, they fucked it all up, and now he's just any other guy.
Rob Wilkins, who is now working for Fightful doing AEW Dark and Dynamite, says, SRS, on an overall scale, do you know if people in WWE want Triple H and Stephanie eventually to take over? Well, Stephanie isn't expected to take over in that regard. She likes her role, from what I understand.
She took on a new role recently. Did you hear about that?
Yeah, I did.
VP of Global Sales and Partnerships or something?
Yeah, nothing to do with creative, really.
Right.
But yeah, I know a lot of people that want anybody more responsive to take over because it's hard to get a meeting with Vince. Even when you get called up, you sit around and wait for weeks and weeks and weeks. So yeah, there are a lot of people that either want that to happen or they want Vince to delegate a little bit more. Kieran George says, WWE doing right by Karrion Kross and Scarlett once they're called up. I could see that happening. They seem like the type of act Vince would love and protect. They do, but here's the thing. Once you beat a guy like Karrion Kross, then you start to beat him all the time, and there's nothing there. They did that with The Fiend. He was there. He was hot. He was awesome. They rebuilt him. Then they stomped him out a bunch, and they started to beat him, and it was never the same, Jimmy.
100% agree. I mean, Saudi killed him. Saudi killed him dead. And I know a lot of people try to defend it because, again, there's pro-WWE people that are going to defend the company to the death. But Saudi killed The Fiend, and he's never been the same. And to me now, his act is tired. Alexa Bliss, they're helping try to extend things with Alexa Bliss, and she's brought a unique twist to it, and you can tell she's really enjoying it. But the Fiend thing, in terms of, there go the lights down again, and there goes that music again. Oh, guess what? He's going to pop up behind the guy when the guy's not looking. You know what? It's just kind of played out. It's the same shit all the time. So...
Yep.
You know, you talked about Melina and Eva Marie. That brings me to another topic. I want to talk about AEW's women's division because this has long been considered the weakness of AEW, but I feel like that they've really made strides to try to improve. And when I look at some of the girls they've added recently, so obviously they signed Serena Deeb, and she was a pretty good addition. They got Thunder Rosa because of the NWA deal. She's been a pretty strong addition. I think Abaddon is very interesting, and I don't know how far they can go with that. Because, you know, that might have a shelf life after a while. Her look, Sean, She looks like
It's very
something out
good.
of she looks like something out of a movie. I can't imagine how long it takes her to do that. Her look is incredible. I think crawling to the ring, she's going to get bored of it after a while. But her look is incredible. And then the other girl I wanted to mention, Anna Jay. I look at Anna Jay, I see WWE superstar, and this is nothing against AEW, but I see a girl that's like Vince McMahon's prototypical, this is what a female performer should look like. And I looked Anna Jay up. She's only 22. She's a kid. The future's bright for Anna Jay. She looks like a WWE superstar, and at some point, they are going to come calling for her when she's available, in my opinion.
Oh yeah, and I mean she had like maybe 8 or 9 matches before she signed,
Right.
So she's advanced really far to the point where she's having good matches with Brandy Rhodes.
Right.
So yeah, I think the AEW Women's division, like they've built towards the future. There's not a lot of experienced, nationally exposed women to pick from. There are so many women that leave WWE and they just never wrestle again. Like Summer Rae doesn't wrestle. Eve Torres doesn't wrestle anymore. AJ Lee doesn't wrestle anymore. Like they left. They're done.
You know, given
So-
that they only do TV once a week, they should really reach out to a Molly Holly.
Yeah,
You know,
I think,
TV once a week, you know?
or once a month or something
Or
like
once
that.
a month.
Like,
Imagine
'cause, I
the
mean-
experience that she could give them, man. She was one of the best in her day.
yeah, and she hasn't wrestled a ton. Like that's the thing. She's wrestled battle royals and like that's it in the last decade.
But
like,
wasn't
since
she part
09.
of a school within the last year or two?
Yeah, but I mean, like I'm talking like she's had maybe half a dozen matches in 15
Yeah,
years.
no, I get it, but I'm just talking about like being able to utilize her knowledge, like give her knowledge.
Yeah.
and
Oh, yeah,
experience.
yeah. She was doing stuff with Davari and Kennedy. Like she
Right.
could be a great Sarah Amato.
Right.
Like she'd be just like that.
Right, right. I wanted to talk about something that I actually like in WWE, and your memory when it comes to recent stuff is better than mine. The Money in the Bank stuff with The Miz, I actually like it.
I have been too.
And the reason I like it is, have we ever had a situation where the Money in the Bank briefcase holder is considered so beatable that the current challenger for the championship is trying to help him win because he knows that he could then beat him as opposed to beating the champion? Have they ever done something like that with Money in the Bank before that you can remember?
I can't remember if they've done that, but I mean, of course, they had Carmella, who was very beatable. They had her out there. They had Sandow, who was kind of that same vein. But other than that, we're talking like guys like Edge, Rob Van Dam, Randy Orton, Sheamus, like people that were pretty well protected. But man, they that before the Miz had it, they really threw away the Money in the Bank stuff this year because Asuka just won the title and Otis was terrible.
Yeah.
Terrible.
Yeah,
And
well-
really, you could say they've thrown it away for a long time. Alexa Bliss cashed it in that night. Bayley cashed it in that night. Asuka didn't get one. The Brock Lesnar thing cashed it in way too soon. Braun cashed it in, and I'm pretty sure he lost. I don't even, yeah. And I think the last one that really sticks out to me, and I'm like, man, that was a good one, was Carmella and how she did it, and Mike Chioda taking forever to cash that thing in. Him being like, "Are you sure? Are you sure?" I thought that was really good, but other than that, they fumbled it for a long time.
Yeah, well, I like what they're doing with The Miz. When they first took it off of Otis, I didn't get it because I thought no one looks at The Miz as WWE champion. Like, what are you doing? Now I like it because there you got AJ Styles saying, cash it in. I'm going to help you beat him. I'm going to help you beat him because AJ Styles knows I got a title shot at TLC. I could kick your ass. I don't know if I could beat Drew McIntyre. I like it, man.
It makes
I like
sense.
It. Yeah.
It doesn't insult my intelligence. It
Yeah.
says what we're all thinking, and I appreciate that.
Yeah, I like it.
Evan Wright says, give me legit Layla Hirsch with Team Taz. I got to reach out to her for an interview before she gets signed. Like, she's really, really good. Evan Wright says, I've become a huge Kylan King fan recently. Anna Jay, Tay Conchi, Red Velvet, Abaddon, they're developing their younger talent. Long game for sure. It is. They are creating people, and they're taking the opposite approach of what they've done with a lot of the men. They've got a lot of WWE exposed talent. Not so much here. Tay Conchi, who was barely on the show, I think they're doing a good job.
Yeah, me too. And like Abaddon, I just saw her on Dark. I had never seen her before until I saw her on Dark. And I just immediately thought, I don't know necessarily how good in the ring she is because I have a short sample size to look at. But in terms of her look and her character, man, is she unique. She's one of the most unique females in all of wrestling right now.
As we wrap up, we've got Shaq saying that he was only laughing at me saying that Otis is pushing 40.
Yeah,
that's
sure.
Yeah.
Oh, and a point about that too, because I saw you say that on Watch Along. I said 36 is pushing 40. I didn't say 35 is pushing 40.
You said that, didn't you joke to me? You're like, Sean, is that because you're pushing 40, Sean?
No, I said that the reason you got offended is because the person I said that about was 36 and you're 35, and so you're close.
No, I wasn't upset over that. I just think it's ridiculous. But
I think it's accurate. I think after you're past the 5 to a 6, you're pushing the next one. That's what I think.
Well, guys, we're pushing this over to FightfulSelect.com. It's the best time of the month to subscribe. We got people asking us all the time, what's up with the timeline on moving it to .com? I don't know. We're working on it.
I can tell you. So we had to switch over to a new type of code. I'm not going to go into detail. That is pretty much ready now. And after that, we can get Select going. I think by the 1st of January, Select will be ready, but we're going to put it into beta and test it internally. Make sure that nothing's glitchy. I think by the end of January, we'll have Fightful Select live.
Nice. That is his timetable. It is not mine. I see a lot of people say, hey, guy, I'm waiting until. Don't wait until. Go ahead and subscribe. FightfulSelect.com. One thing I can tell you, it'll be one price point when we move over. It'll still be the most affordable in this space whatsoever, and you'll get everything there.
And it's going to be ad-free. Ad-free site, and we're going to be adding things that the Patreon can't do, like a forum and stuff like that. We're going to have new features on it.
Yeah, and we're adding new shows. We're adding a lot of new stuff. My early access stuff will be up there for everybody, so you're going to get more than ever for that. But subscribe to FightfulSelect.com right now. I've got a Q&A show that's dropping tomorrow. Every week I do the Backstage Report, which is exclusive news, 15 and 20 minutes. And I got stories up right now. I had wrestlers contacting me about how frustrated they were over some of the things they saw in the Liv Morgan documentary. Another top NXT star got COVID. That sucks. A bunch of creative changes for the WWE Raw brand. I had an update on Jeff Hardy the other night. News on the Raw script, the War Games location. Every single day we are posting exclusive news there. I don't think that you guys will get that anywhere else. So head over there. The list goes on. Until next time, guys, we're out. Subscribe to Fightful on YouTube for the latest exclusive podcasts, interviews, and news across boxing, MMA, and pro wrestling.